the calendar turned to 1970, the golden age of equestrian sport was blossoming in Canada. 2 years earlier, we had shocked the world, winning gold in Mexico City. In the summer of 1970, Team Canada would validate their Olympic triumph with a win in the World Championship in Laval, France. Meanwhile, back in Alberta, the wheels were in motion to create a show jumping facility to rival any of the historic venues in Europe.
It was just a vision that he and his family had about competition, and they'd been in Europe and seen that, and they were building Europe in Canada.
I think all horse shows start in a field. That's the beginning. His was a little grander field than most, but it was just a field. That was in the 70s, and now we're into 2008, and it's probably the best horse show in the world.
Right from its inception, Spruce Meadows has been an innovator, unique in its marketing, presentation, and approach.
I can remember in the very first year at Spruce Meadows, Ron Southern rented a whole bunch of buses and sent them around to the seniors' home and told the seniors he was going to give them an afternoon out. And for nothing, he got all these old seniors out on all these buses and brought them out and sat them on that bank. And people say, well, why is he probably doing that? Well, they forget that those people, those grandparents and so forth, they have grandchildren. And they said, dear, I was at this wonderful event. You've got to come with me next year.
We have these riders' meetings, which he always would come to. And every time there'd be a different theme to it, and which transcended the sport. If you went to the Harvard School of Business and he was talking, it would apply. Wherever you were, it would apply. And there are so many life lessons as well as business lessons that I've received just sitting there listening to Mr. R.D. Southern.
Ron was a very, very good salesman. He had the sponsors that would do it. And Ron was just a past master at looking after the sponsors and making them happy and seeing that they enjoyed themselves and their family. And he had the sponsor, the main sponsor of that class, sitting out in the middle of the ring with him.
I think it's all a testament to his reputation as a businessman, frankly. What impressed me the most the day of our events was always his particular involvement. He was the producer on the ground, and I can remember many times being in the playpen out in the middle, and he would have his walkie-talkie, and he'd see something in the distance that he wanted changed. He'd be quietly on his walkie-talkie making sure that it happened. I mean, he was just constantly involved right as the centerpiece.
If Ron is the pulse of Spruce Meadows, then his wife Marg is the heart of a facility that has become a true family affair.
She was the quiet strength, sort of in behind, and you know, very often I would find that she would pick up where Ron would leave off in terms of making sure that things were exactly as the sponsors wanted them.
She is just the most lovely lady, also a very strong character, but in the best possible way.
Southern family has so much vision, and their vision is vision and energy is unlimited. And they really wanted to make it the best in the world, and even now that they've gotten there, they're still not resting. They're still going 90 miles an hour in every single direction to make it even better, the best that we've ever seen.
Without a doubt, the Southern family has built Spruce Meadows into one of the iconic landmarks in the world of equestrian sport. What makes it so special isn't something you can see or touch. It is unquestionably something you feel.
The atmosphere, the ambiance of a championship event. When you go to Germany, they have a thing at the end of the show where they have these white handkerchiefs and they wave them. That's an ambiance of a championship event. Spruce Meadows has that every day.
They also created sort of a mystique by using a lot of natural obstacles, which you're going to do in Europe. These open ditches that they have, the water jump that they have, the bank that they have, that famous bicycle jump. So they're creating a little bit of a story with their facility.
One of the qualities that separates Spruce Meadows from the rest of the world is quite simply the way they do business.
First of all the banks are centered in the east, and this was a western venue, so it was fabulous for being able to entertain guests. Secondly, other than Olympic years, my recollection is that it was the #1 CBC sports weekend when it was broadcast each and every year. third, the impression your guests were left with. I never had a guest ever say, please don't put me on the list next year, or always remember to have me come, because they enjoyed it so much. And it was kind of tying the bank with excellence, and you can't do better than what they've done.
Over 34 years, Spruce Meadows has earned its reputation in the equestrian world, hosting some of the greatest horses and riders that the sport has ever seen, and collecting some unforgettable history.
My greatest memory at Spruce Meadows is when we finally won the BMO Nations Cup, and that was just the crowd again. They'd been waiting for many years for that, and they were so behind us, and it was one of those magic days when it all came together, and we got the job done, and boy, I'll never forget that.
Imagine 31 years it took us. Hey, 31 years.
Spruce Meadows is truly a field of dreams that has influenced the sport in this country from the grassroots right to the highest levels of international competition.
Well, what Spruce Meadows has done for Canadian riders is it's given us all that education and opportunity to practice world skills right here in Canada. We don't necessarily, going to Europe is still a wonderful thing and very necessary and does a lot of good for us, but I would say 3/4 of it, if not more, is all done right here in Canada with the great help of the Spruce Meadows venue.
I don't think it's any accident that we had a gold medalist this year at the Olympics and a silver medaling team. I think all of that competition and exposure and money and interest in the sport led to the development of our success in China, and I think Spruce Meadows had a very direct hand in that.
It has to have an effect on the results that we just had. It has to. It's the same sort of atmosphere, the same kind of pressure, so it has to help our elite athletes to compete there.
Our young riders and kids that go out there, they watch the team, they watch the way they ride, the way they compete, their manner, and the professionalism. And that's how Jimmy and I started, was watching the teams indoors at the Winter Fair.
And it's not just the so-called bricks and mortar. It's the spirit of the Southerns. It's the spirit of Calgary. Again, the spirit of all of Canada behind it.